The world of Valora was quiet that evening, covered in silver light from 3 gentle moons. The air shimmered softly, carrying the scent of glowing flowers that only bloomed at night. In the distance, human ships rested on the landing fields, their metal shells shining faintly under the alien sky. Near one of them, a lone man worked in silence. His name was Elias Grant. Once a soldier, now a peace envoy, he spent his days helping rebuild the fragile bond between humans and Valorans after years of misunderstanding. Elias had once been seen often in the royal palace, walking beside Princess Lyra. She was young by Valoran years, but wise and gentle. Her silver hair always caught the light, and her eyes, soft violet, carried kindness instead of pride. She was different from the other royals. When humans arrived, most treated them as curiosities or threats, but Lyra treated Elias as a friend. They would sit together in the moon gardens, talking about Earth, oceans, music, and stories about simple human life. Sometimes she would ask questions about emotions humans showed so freely, laughter, sadness, or courage, and he would try to explain them, though his words never felt enough. But that was months ago. Now Elias rarely visited the palace. He kept his distance, answering her messages with short, polite replies or not at all. Whenever he saw her in the halls, he bowed like a stranger and walked away quickly. The palace staff whispered behind his back. Some said the human had lost respect. Others said he grew cold like all soldiers do. Lyra did not believe any of that. She could still remember how gently he once smiled, how he helped heal a servant's wounded arm when everyone else ignored it. No, Elias was not proud. Something else was wrong. Days turned into weeks. She told herself she would let him be, but every time she saw him from afar working alone, something inside her hurt. Valoran custom taught that emotions should be hidden behind calm faces, yet she couldn't hide hers anymore. She missed his voice, his strange earth jokes, and the way he looked at stars like they were alive. One night, she could not stand it any longer. Dressed in a plain dark cloak, she left the palace quietly. Her guards searched for her, but she moved like a shadow through the glass gardens, her steps light on the shining paths. She followed the soft hum of engines until she reached the landing field. There, by the faint light of a repair lamp, stood Elias. He was bent over an old Earth shuttle, tightening bolts and adjusting panels. His sleeves were rolled up, showing the rough scars of his work. He looked tired but calm, too calm, like someone who had chosen to live in silence. Lyra watched him for a moment, her heart racing. The wind moved through her hair as she stepped forward. Her voice came softly, almost carried away by the air. "Why have you stayed away from me, human?" Elias froze. The sound of her voice was something he had avoided for too long. Slowly, he lifted his head, eyes reflecting the pale light of the moons. For a long moment, neither spoke. The wind whispered through the cables around them. Finally, he turned away again and wiped his hands on a cloth. "Your Highness," he said quietly, "you shouldn't be here. It's late." "That is not an answer," she said, walking closer. "You once came to the gardens every day. You once spoke freely to me, and now you vanish as if I have done you harm. Tell me why." Elias sighed, his shoulders tense. He had trained for years to face danger, but this simple question made his heart feel heavy. "Because I thought it was the right thing," he said. "The right thing," she repeated softly. "To leave without a word?" He looked at her then, really looked, her face half covered by the hood, her eyes glowing faintly like crystal fire. Something inside him twisted. "You are a princess," he said. "I am just a man from a small world. Every time I stood beside you, people looked at me like I didn't belong." Maybe they were right. Lyra frowned, confusion and sadness mixing in her voice. "And did you believe them?" He gave a small, helpless laugh. "I've seen wars end because people couldn't believe they deserved peace. I didn't want to be the reason your world whispered about scandal or weakness." For the first time, she saw the truth behind his calm mask. He wasn't proud or distant. He was afraid. Not of her power or her world, but of himself. Of the idea that someone like him could mean something to someone like her. Lyra took another step forward, her cloak brushing against the ground. "Elias," she said gently, "do you think I care about what others say? Do you think I want a friend who hides because of their own doubts?" He turned his gaze down. "You deserve more than a broken soldier who came from a dying blue planet." Her voice softened even more. "I never asked for more. I only asked for honesty." Elias could not answer. His throat felt tight, and all he could do was nod slightly. He wanted to tell her everything. That he admired her courage, that her kindness reminded him of the world he lost, that he stayed away not because he stopped caring, but because he cared too much. But the words never came. The silence between them stretched long. The moons drifted slowly above as if waiting for one of them to speak again. Then Lyra finally lowered her hood. Her silver hair shimmered under the light. "If you truly think you don't belong," she said softly, "then tell me, where do you belong?" Elias looked at the shuttle beside him. It was old and half-broken, just like the man who worked on it. "Maybe nowhere," he whispered. Lyra's expression softened even further. "Then perhaps you should stop running, because here on Valora, we build homes for those who have lost them, even for humans." Elias smiled faintly but said nothing. He couldn't promise her anything, not yet. But something in his chest, something long frozen, began to melt just a little. As the night grew colder, Lyra stepped back. "You do not have to answer me now," she said, "but don't keep hiding behind silence. It does not suit you." He wanted to stop her, to tell her to stay, but she turned and walked away, her cloak catching the light like flowing silver. She did not look back, and yet he could feel the warmth of her presence even after she was gone. When she disappeared into the distance, Elias sat down beside the shuttle and looked up at the moons. For the first time in months, he let his thoughts drift toward her without fear. He realized how much he missed their talks, her curiosity, her laughter when she tried to pronounce human words wrong on purpose. He had stayed away because he thought distance would make things easier, that forgetting would protect them both. But now he understood. Distance only made the emptiness louder. As the night wind passed through the open field, Elias whispered to himself, "Maybe I was wrong." Far away in her tower room, Lyra stood by her window looking toward the landing fields. She could still see the faint light of his lamp flickering like a small star. For the first time since he pulled away, she smiled, a quiet, hopeful smile. She now knew his silence came not from pride, but from a heart too full of doubt, and she made a silent promise to herself. She would not let him fade away again. She would remind the human that friendship, and perhaps something even deeper, could bridge the space between two worlds. That night, under 3 moons and a sky full of gentle light, both the human and the alien princess dreamed of the same thing, a world where neither had to stand apart. Morning came to Valora with soft golden light. The 3 moons faded, replaced by the twin suns that painted the sky in hues of silver and rose. Elias stood on the balcony of his small quarters, watching the light creep across the crystal towers. He had not slept all night. The words Lyra had spoken kept repeating in his mind. Don't keep hiding behind silence. He wanted to see her again, but part of him still feared the distance between them. She was a princess, heir to an empire. He was only a soldier who had seen too many broken worlds. Yet deep inside he knew running away had been a mistake. He could no longer live pretending not to care. That morning, the city was alive with movement. The solar convergence ceremony was about to begin, the most sacred event on Valora. Every decade, the royal family stood beneath the great starlight dome to renew their vow to peace and unity among all species. Delegations from many worlds arrived, and humans were among them. Elias was assigned to the security detail outside the main hall. He accepted the post quietly, though it meant he would have to see her again. The air shimmered with banners made of glowing fabric. Children ran through the crowd, laughing as music played, yet in Elias's heart there was only silence. He stood near the edge of the plaza, watching from afar as the royal family stepped forward. Lyra walked in the center, wearing a silver robe that shimmered like light itself. Her face was calm, but her eyes seemed distant and searching. When they met his across the crowd, something inside him stopped. For one heartbeat, it was as if the whole ceremony disappeared, leaving only the two of them under that vast sky. Then her voice echoed through the air. "Peace is not just words or treaties," she said to the gathered worlds. "It is built when one heart reaches another, and neither lets distance turn it to silence." Her words struck him like a quiet thunder. It wasn't a political speech, it was a message meant for him. He looked down, breathing deeply, his hands tightening around his gloves. The guards near him did not notice his expression, but inside he felt something shift. After the ceremony ended, he walked aimlessly around the corridors of the observatory dome. The walls glowed with soft light, and from above the stars began to appear again as dusk returned. He thought he was alone until he saw her waiting by the glass wall. She had changed into a simple dress of white silk, her crown replaced by a small crystal pin in her hair. "You came," she said softly. Elias stopped a few steps away, unsure what to do with his hands, his words, or even his heartbeat. "I couldn't stay away anymore," he said at last. She looked at him quietly for a moment. "Then tell me," she said, her voice trembling a little, "why did you stay away in the first place?" The question hung between them, simple but heavy. Elias took a slow breath. He could not hide behind formal words anymore. "Because I thought I wasn't worthy of your friendship," he said. "You're the daughter of a world that shines like this sky. I'm just a human who's lost too many battles and too many friends. I didn't want to bring the shadows of my past into your light." Lyra listened without interrupting. The reflection of the stars flickered in her eyes, and she looked as if she might speak, but Elias continued. "I thought keeping distance would protect you from me, but every day I stayed away I felt emptier. I realized I wasn't protecting you, I was running from myself." For a moment she didn't move. Then she stepped closer, her voice quiet but firm. "You fool," she said softly, not with anger but with sadness. "Did you think I wanted perfection? Did you think I wanted someone untouched by pain? I wanted truth. I wanted you." Elias blinked, stunned. He had expected polite forgiveness or royal kindness. Not that. She continued. "When you came to Valora, you were different from everyone else. You didn't look at me like a princess. You talked to me like a person. You showed me the beauty of human things, laughter, courage, simple kindness. You made me understand that peace is not signed on paper, it's built in hearts." Her words made his chest ache. He tried to speak, but she raised her hand gently to stop him. "You think you don't belong here," she said softly. "But I say you already do. You belong wherever your heart is honest." The silence that followed was deep and warm. The stars above shone brighter as if listening. Elias finally took a step closer, his voice low. "Then there's something I need to say. Something I was too afraid to tell you." Lyra waited, her eyes steady on his. "I stayed away because every time I saw you," he said, "I felt something I couldn't name. It wasn't duty or friendship. It was something more, and I thought if I stayed close I would ruin everything between our worlds. I didn't want to cause you trouble. But it didn't matter how far I went. You were still in my thoughts. You became the reason I wanted to stay on this planet." Lyra's lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. The look on her face was soft, a mix of wonder and disbelief. For a moment, the great hall around them seemed to disappear. Only the glow of starlight and their reflections remained. "You left me speechless," she whispered finally, her voice barely above a breath. "Do you know how rare that is for me?" He smiled faintly, though his heart was pounding. "I didn't mean to." She took another step closer, close enough that he could see the faint glow of her markings, delicate lines that shimmered under her skin when she felt strong emotion. "You said you feared ruining peace," she murmured. "But maybe this," she touched her hand lightly to his chest, "is the peace our worlds were meant to find." He looked down at her hand, then at her eyes. "You really believe that?" "I do," she said simply. "Because peace begins when one person dares to be honest." Neither spoke for a long time. Outside, the city lights began to shine like constellations on the ground. The sound of the wind moved softly through the observatory, carrying the faint hum of distant engines. Elias felt the weight that had rested on him for so long begin to lift. He realized how foolish his fear had been. She had never wanted him to be perfect. She had only wanted him to stay true. Finally, he said quietly, "Then I'll stop running." Lyra smiled, a real, gentle smile that reached her eyes. "Good," she whispered, "because I was tired of waiting." They stood side by side, looking up through the glass dome at the endless stars. The silence between them was no longer heavy. It was peaceful. Later that night, when Elias walked back to the landing fields, the air felt different. The sky above shimmered with soft light, and for the first time since he arrived on Valora, it felt like home. In her chamber, Lyra stood by the window, her hand resting on the glass where she had last seen him. Her reflection smiled faintly as she whispered to herself. He finally spoke. From that night onward, the humans and Valerans began to see something new between their two worlds, a quiet bridge built not by politics or force, but by honesty and courage. And every time someone spoke of the strange bond between a human envoy and an alien princess. They said the same thing, that when she asked him why he stayed away, his answer had left her speechless and unchanged 2 worlds forever.